Jesus says we have to keep watching. In verse 42, he says that we need to keep watching because we don't know the day or the hour of the rapture of the church. We do know the day of the second coming. Every eye will see him. He will not come as a thief in the night and catch people off guard. The second coming of Jesus Christ is an event that everyone will know and everyone will see. Make no mistake about that. Different with the rapture. In verse 43, he illustrates this by comparing it to one not knowing at what time a thief would come. If he's watching, he won't be caught off guard. But you have to keep watching. Are you watching here this morning? Are you watching the news here this morning? Are you watching for the return of Jesus Christ for his church here this morning? If you are not, then Jesus says you will be caught off guard and it will surprise you as a thief in the night. And so he says in verse 44, so too must we always be ready, because Jesus will come to rapture his bride, his church, at an hour that we would not expect him to do it. Now, when I say to you what Jesus is saying to us, I'm going to come, he says, at an hour that you do not expect. How many of us, if the truth be known, could honestly say that we really expect Jesus to come and rapture us at this hour? I think if we were really honest, that's not really true. And I'll tell you why I say that. Because if that were true, it would have a profound impact, and I include myself in this. If it were really true that we really believe that Jesus could come back at any hour, how would that change the complexion of how we live our lives today? How would that change the schedule that we have for the upcoming week? If we really believed that Jesus could come at any hour, I think it would change what we did not only this afternoon, but what we did this week, whom we talked to, and what we talked to them about. I'm not so sure we wouldn't cancel some things already on our calendars. In the light of the imminent return at any minute, at any hour of the Lord. I want to round the corner. And I have to say, as much as I love teaching Bible prophecy, this has probably been one of the most difficult teachings that I've ever prepared for on a Sunday morning. I asked myself, and I inquired of the Lord, how specifically do we keep watching so that we're ready, so that we're not caught off guard, and your return at the rapture takes us by surprise at an hour that we don't expect it, like a thief in the night? And in the context of Matthew 24, I think is the answer to that question. The context of Matthew 24 is watch Israel. It's been said that if you want to know what time it is on God's prophetic clock, look at the nation Israel. Isn't that what he said? When he said, when you see the leaves and the figs return to the tree, the leaves and the figs being Israel, return to the land, that generation will be the generation that sees the coming of the Son of Man. In other words, he's qualifying it. He's putting a timeline, if you will, and even though we don't know the day or the hour, we can know that it's soon. And we need to be watching and waiting. I have been watching with great interest the news in the Middle East, as I know many of you have as well. And as we talked about last week, I'm going to go on record and tell you that I believe that what is happening in the Middle East right now is very likely to be the fulfillment of Zechariah's prophecy with the surrounding nations, namely Lebanon and Syria. And let's not forget about the prophecy in Isaiah 17, that Damascus, the city Damascus, will become a ruinous heap in one day. Listen, God's got a pretty good track record as far as I'm concerned as it relates to prophecy in the Scripture. First of all, Damascus would have to exist as a city and Syria as a nation in order for that prophecy to be fulfilled. And heretofore it's not been fulfilled. I submit to you that it looks to me like it's about to be fulfilled. And conspicuously absent from another very important prophecy in Ezekiel 38 are the nations Syria and Lebanon and Egypt and Jordan, who both have, and as the only two Arab nations to have peace agreements with Israel, and more interestingly, Iraq. All of which, as Muslims, would for sure be in this alliance of nations from which the common denominator we find to be Islam. So I believe that prophecy is being fulfilled. And I believe when Jesus says that we need to be watching, I believe he's saying, watch what's happening with those fig leaves that have returned to the tree. Watch what's happening with Israel that's returned to the land as a nation. Watch what's happening. And because if you watch, then you will know that the coming is close and it won't catch you off guard. I do not want for us as a church to be caught off guard by the rapture. Now I'm going to make a statement. Here it is again. There is nothing that has yet to happen prophetically before the rapture of the Church of Jesus Christ. It could happen at any time. Now, there are many things that need to happen before the second coming. The Antichrist has to be revealed, number one. Did you know that, according to 1 Thessalonians, the Antichrist cannot be revealed until the church is removed? But do you know that he's probably on the scene today, alive and well, already functioning, but you haven't heard much about him because it's not his time to be revealed? Now, if you remember at the beginning of our study in Matthew 24, Jesus said that there will be wars and rumors of wars, that nation will rise up against nation, and there will be famines and pestilence and earthquakes in various places. And he said that these will be the beginning of birth pains. Interesting, I watch C-SPAN, and Fox News recorded the Condoleezza Rice address where she fielded questions, and she said, quote, "We are seeing the birth pains of the new Middle East." What do we know about birth pains? They come in shorter frequency and greater intensity. I thought it was interesting that this article, which was on Saturday the 15th of July from Ynet News, Israel gives Syria ultimatum. The London-based Arabic language newspaper Al Hayat reported Saturday that Washington has information according to which Israel gave Damascus 72 hours to stop Hezbollah's activity along the Lebanon-Israel border and bring about the release of 2 kidnapped IDF soldiers, or it would launch an offensive with disastrous consequences. The report said a senior Pentagon source warned that should the Arab world and international community fail in the efforts to convince Syria to pressure Hezbollah into releasing the soldiers and halt the current escalation, Israel may attack targets in the country. What country? Syria, Damascus, Isaiah 17:1.